Welcome back, everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Speak Now. Before we get into the episode, make sure to like, subscribe, comment if you haven't already. Helps grow our following, helps us reach more people, helps build the community. That's stuff that we're trying to do here. But it's exciting to get into NFL Week 2. We are in full swing. Have another week of games to talk about. This is going to be the first week of pick'ems that we do. We got no Steve with us today. It's just Eli and I. Eli, how are you feeling after week 2?
Um, NFL wise, I thought the games were better, so I guess that would be a positive. I thought last night's game was a probably the game of the week. That was a great game. So that was good to see. But when it comes to, my fandom, not a great week whatsoever. We'll get into that, but concerning week when it comes to the Detroit Lions, I'd say. Um, but I'm blessed to have NFL back, so hard to complain.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it felt bad for you watching the Lions game, especially with Hutch going off like how he did. It's just like, it just sucks that they couldn't get a win out of that. Um, I mean, how about the Saints though?
Yeah.
Saints destroying the
Yeah, it's
Cowboys.
yeah, that'll be a big talk.
All right, we're back from technical difficulties. Eli was talking about go ahead and get back into what you were discussing. We're going with Saints, Cowboys.
Yeah, I was really just saying, we kind of gave teasers for the week. I said, why not just get right into the Saints Cowboys? I think it's a good place to start. That game was fascinating to me. I picked the Saints, like in my spread thing. Everybody laughed at me. But those teams that get hot early in the year, we saw the Arizona Cardinals like 2 or 3 years ago start like 8-0. They weren't 8-0 team. I don't think Derek Carr is going to keep it up, but I thought a stat that was interesting looking at this game was Derek Carr and the Saints when Derek Carr played the first 15 drives this season, the Saints scored when Derek Carr was playing. And I tell you what, 15 drives in a row, no matter what quarterback you are, that is pretty dang impressive. But I'm just fearful that his magic's going to run out. He's going to turn into David Carr again. So I'm a little nervous about that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I know that he's been hot since the end of last year. Obviously, they have Clint Kubiak now, so they are definitely a team where I'm super intrigued to see how long they keep this up. I mean, I'll keep picking them until they prove us wrong, right? Like I mean, shout out Alvin Kamara for carrying me in Haas's fantasy league, man. Went 2-0 this week because of him, so thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned Clint Kubiak. I think he's probably the top name on the market right now when it comes to future coaches. Obviously, it's early, so that that shiny new toy can fade really quickly. But I also think, going to the other side, I think the Cowboys, I think there's definitely room for concerns over there. Their run game is non-existent. I think that's the worst part of the game. They have a good passing offense, but I mean, when you have Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, and Ezekiel Elliott, I'm pretty fearful, and not addressing that was really bizarre to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I can't remember if I brought this up in last week's episode, but it was in my notes about like I'm not sold on the Cowboys because everyone was talking about how good the Cowboys defense is this year and stuff like that. And then we're like talking about how Deshaun Watson's washed, how he's not that good. Like the Browns don't have a good offense. And it's like you saw that. You saw them get completely exposed at home. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sold on the Cowboys. I'm not sold on the Eagles after Monday night. It's just question marks. I get that if Saquon catches that pass, Eagles win, we don't talk about this. But he dropped it, we're gonna talk about it. Like whenever your defense gets sliced up by Kirk Cousins late into the fourth for a game winning drive, like come on now. You have Jordan Davis, you have Jalen Carter up front. Your defensive line should be able to get more pressure on the quarterback than what they've been able to do. So yeah, Cowboys, Eagles, I'm not sold on them after the first 2 weeks. Wasn't sold up on them after the first week, and I feel very vindicated this week, being like, hold up now. Like both of them, one of them will probably win the division, but I don't know. And unless the Commanders and Jaden Daniels like figures it out and gets hot, I don't know.
Well, I think it's fair to be bullish on the Eagles just because I don't think it's really necessarily their offense. I think their offense is fine. I mean, they put up 21 points, which isn't great. Um, but I didn't think they played horribly. I thought Jalen Hurts played a pretty decent game, actually. I just think their defense, their secondary still isn't good. Their Cooper DeJean got his first snap yesterday. He only played, I think, one or two snaps. So clearly they don't see much in him yet. And ah, and then also just why can't I think of the Toledo rookie? This is bad.
Oh, Quinyon Mitchell.
Um, yeah, Quinn, holy cow! But I mean, he's early in his career. Him and Terrion Arnold, the two top consensus corners, have struggled out the gate. Um, so the Eagles' defense is just is one. They got holes like last year, so I think that's going to really hold them back. I think the NFC East is pretty weak compared to what it has been in the past.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think it's interesting after the first 2 weeks looking at, obviously, we're talking about the Cowboys and the Eagles, teams that going into the season, people are predicting to be playoff teams. And you get this in the go over to the AFC, and you got both the Bengals and the Ravens starting 0-2. Whereas at least like the Cowboys and the Eagles have won a game. Are you concerned about any of either one of those teams, the Ravens or the Bengals, or you think they're just going to be fine? It's just some early season stuff that they're figuring out.
Funny enough, I think I'm less concerned with the Bengals. I mean, they went 0-2, but the first game was bad, but the game last week, I think they were pretty much, I think they were Jamar Chase, unsportsmanlike conduct away from potentially winning that game. I think he screwed them. They did get points on that drive, so you can be like, oh, they still got three, but he put them out of a chance of converting to like continue that drive. I think there was a lot of debate about that last DPI. I thought that was a pretty obvious call. So I think in the end they did kick themselves in the foot. But I'm concerned about the Ravens. I mean, Lamar passing wise still doesn't look good. I'd say he has more weapons than what he ever has. So that's not really an argument anymore. And their defense really has more holes than what it usually. Their defense carried them last year, in my opinion. And I mean, you've seen Madueke hasn't been quite as effective. Um, and then also just yeah, I'm not big on them. Derrick Henry also hasn't really impacted them. Um, so I'm concerned for everybody. That whole AFC North is weird for me right now. Nobody's really set themselves apart. I think the Steelers are the best team right now, but it's not like they've convincingly won their two games either.
Yeah. Yeah, like this week against the Chargers at home is going to be like a huge test for the Steelers. I think this season couldn't have started off any better for the Steelers. Steelers have a dogfight towards the end of the season, playing like their divisional opponents, like basically, I don't know, like toward like it's all at the end of the season. So they really needed to get off to a hot start because it's just going to be a slugfest as we get into the later part of this season. Yeah, it's a huge. We're gonna see this week really what these teams are made of. You got Baltimore going against Dallas at Dallas. Can Dallas rebound? I know Dak's pissed off after this last week. Bengals should win at home against the Commanders on Monday Night Football. If they get upset, I think raises more concerns. I think the Browns should probably win again this week, playing the Giants at home. So yeah, you really need to win for the Steelers. They really need to win against the Chargers to keep that pace to keep in the lead. I agree with everything you said. Like the Ravens just don't look like a cohesive unit. And I know a lot of people have been talking about their offensive line and like replacing like three starters. And it's like I get that that's an issue, but there's no guarantee that that offensive line settles in and actually is productive. You don't like some of these guys are like rookies, like you don't know. Um, you sign Derrick Henry to not really use Derrick Henry how Derrick Henry should be used. It's weird. Um, yeah, we're seeing Lamar in a sense regress over the first 2 weeks. And again, like this could, I get that it's early. This could all change. But yeah, right now the Ravens look like a fringe playoff team.
Well, I think mentioning the Browns too, leaving them out, I do think they actually looked a lot better over this past week. It was a really bad week one. I did think Deshaun Watson looked a little better. I just thought he got rid of the ball quicker. I think that was his main issue. Um, and him and Jerry Jeudy formed a bit of a connection there. So I was a little more impressed with the Browns, but still, I mean, I think the Jaguars are a mess too, is the hard part. Um, they clearly don't look as convincing as what people expect. I mean, I think the AFC South has been a disappointment altogether. I mean, Tennessee's disappointed, Indianapolis is disappointed, and then even the Texans really didn't finish out that game well on Sunday night. So that's a division like I think the entire NFL for me is underperforming other than like really just a couple teams. There hasn't been a standout division, which is odd. Like to me, the Vikings and the Chargers are the two teams that like if I look at them, those two teams impressed me the most. And I was like, I thought they would be bottom 10 teams this year.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's funny looking at the AFC South now, which going back to last week's thing where I'm talking about how like the South and East divisions are going to have all these playoff teams. So it's kind of funny like looking at how trash they're starting to look. It's like you could very well only have one franchise quarterback in the AFC South, and that looks really bad if you're the three other teams, which are Colts, um, Titans, and Jaguars. It's like as much as I'm a huge Trevor Lawrence fan, like really want to see him succeed, just haven't really seen that on a consistent level. And I get like their offense as a whole has been a mess, but come on, like if he is even performing somewhat up to par, like they're a much better team. They're not 0-2 at this point. They've won one of those games at least. Will Levis just doesn't look like he has the mental capabilities to play the quarterback position. He's got the arm talent, man, but he does not have that decision making. I love Brian Callahan just going at him on the sideline. That was wild.
Well, he's just making boneheaded plays. Like I genuinely think the Titans are another team that could very well be 2-0, but he's made like the dumbest. Like he's thrown the ball just randomly twice and probably lost him the game twice, which is crazy. Like usually it'd be like it's a whole team effort why a team lost. I think he might be the sole reason they've lost two games, which is because Kelvin Ridley's been fantastic, and the Titans defense is probably a top five unit right now. Like I think it's all on Will. I think the Titans are probably the second best team in that division after watching 2 weeks, which is bizarre because they are 0-2 and they actually are there three 0-2 teams in that division right now? Am I
Yeah, I think
the
so.
Colts are yeah, there's three
Yeah.
0-2. Yeah, that's bizarre to me. Like I think like just going on the Colts a little bit, like that Anthony Richardson's looked horrible too. He's completing like 40% of his passes. Um, I mean, I don't know how do you feel about Anthony Richardson? Because I was not big on him. His main concern was like he was like Josh Allen when he came in the NFL, but he looks way worse.
Yeah, I'm always skeptical of quarterbacks when they skyrocket to the top of draft boards like right before the draft. Like I feel like that was Anthony Richardson, like after like the combine ish, like absolutely skyrocketed, and it's like normally there's a lot of pause there because I'm like, okay, why wasn't that guy there like a few weeks ago? Because like the tape hasn't changed. You just have measurements for certain things, and I'm just like, so yeah, I was not high on him coming out of college. Was really skeptical of the pick. Thought he was definitely like a second, third round, mid round guy. Um, And you're seeing that. Like I get that the guy got injured in his rookie season, lost all that time to develop, but yeah, completing 40% of your passes isn't going to fly in today's NFL. Like maybe if this was 1970s, you could, because Terry Bradshaw back in the day barely completed 50% of his passes. But I mean, the dude's got athleticism. It's just, yeah, I'm really curious to see how long both the Titans and the Colts stick with their guy. I feel like the Jags are kind of locked into Trevor. Obviously after paying him and all that stuff, and I get it. He's shown a little bit more. He's led them to the playoffs. Just yeah, Doug Peterson probably wasn't the right hire. Who knows? Maybe he gets fired after this year. Maybe we're talking about Clint Kubiak as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2025. But Titans and Colts, interesting scenarios because one team drafted, that's the guy that they drafted. The other, with Will Levis, like Callahan didn't draft Will Levis. So how long are you willing to stick with him? Obviously, we've seen how short a leash it can be for quarterbacks. Obviously, with the news of Bryce Young getting benched now. Curious to know your thoughts. Is that the right decision for the Panthers going forward, or are they making a mistake by not giving him more time?
I mean, it's a hard one because like I do think he deserves more time. And I think the decision not to play Bryce Young in the offseason was one of the more bizarre decisions like preseason. Um, it's hard because like on tape he's been like by far the worst quarterback in the NFL. He's not making simple reads. His footwork's been terrible. He hasn't really done anything right, but it's almost like I don't feel like the Panthers have set him up for success. So like he hasn't played well and he looks like he's regressed significantly, but it's almost like what has that organization genuinely done right in the past 2 years? It's hard to like it's hard to defend either side, in my opinion. I'm just like the whole thing's a mess. Um, I think Dave Canales has started horribly as a head coach, and everybody was super high on him, which rightfully so. He brought Baker back, but it's a mess. I think that organization needs a massive retool because I mean, you look at the trade between the Bears and the Panthers, and it's one of the worst trades you'll ever see. Like it's hard to watch. Like not the Bears haven't done that well with the picks they've received, but at the same time, it's like they're all like rookies, so it's hard to like say it yet. But I mean, I don't know. I honestly can't take a side because I think both are in the wrong. I don't know if that's really a great answer, but I can't defend either side, honestly.
Yeah, unfortunately for all the Panther fans listening, I feel like as long as Tepper's the one that is owning the organization, calling a lot of the shots, like they're just not going to be successful. Unfortunately, that guy's just made a lot of boneheaded decisions for the club, and it's unfortunate because, like, yeah, to your point, like maybe like all the picks from Chicago they don't pan out, but here's the thing: is like you don't know who you would have picked in that scenario. Maybe their picks like would have panned out. You don't know that. Instead, you went for a quarterback who was like the shortest quarterback in NFL history, and it's like I mean I get that there's precedent. I get that there's certain things, but yeah, it's like obviously hindsight's 2020. I'm not gonna be one of those people. I've seen some articles on this where everyone's been talking about how like CJ Stroud was like the surefire number one pick, and it was they shocked the world by taking Bryce Young. That's not true. Bryce Young was basically the 1A and Stroud was the 1B. There was some people that would go with Stroud over Young, but Young was really the consensus. So I get why you go with that guy, but yeah, it sucks for them. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting quarterback carousel come the offseason. There's so many teams it feels like for like the first time in a while that like it feels like almost half the teams in the league need quarterbacks and need to like address it at some level.
Yeah, it's just hard. I think quarterback play overall is down. Um, I was reading a stat, only 91 touchdown passes have been thrown thus far, which is very, very low. I think it averages out to about 2.5 a game, like not even just like a player. It's 2.5 a game, which is that's a very, very low number. And then it was also I was reading yards per game um per team is down like 15 yards from last year. So offense as a whole has really struggled. Um, which is interesting. So really, I mean, you gotta it's hard to really map out if offenses have regressed or just defenses have found a new scheme that works. Because you're not seeing as many downfield plays. You're seeing a lot of ticky tack, like behind the line of scrimmage type plays. So it's kind of weird because there's like, I mean, you'll see like Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes. None of them have started particularly good, and those are, I mean, top 15 quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Yeah, and this is like I know we kind of discussed this last week where it's like, is this a result of just not playing your guys in the preseason? Is this a result of like 3 game preseason type stuff? Like I feel like it doesn't look good for a 2 game. I know I get why you don't play guys. You don't want them to get injured, but then here's the thing: is they play week 1 and week 2 and they're getting injured anyway. And I get that that's going to happen with football, and I don't know what the answer or solution is to stop guys from getting injured, but uh like as you know, like both my fantasy teams right now are like decimated by injuries. It's like just stuff that's like I can't do anything, and it's like for the teams going through that, I just don't know. I don't know why. Yeah, play calling looks a lot conservative. Obviously, I'm used to seeing a lot of conservative play calling being a Steelers fan, and it sucks. Like, let's unleash Justin Fields. I want to see what he can do. Like, you're when we were texting about the game, and it's like, oh, Justin Fields looks good. I'm like, yeah, kind of. Like, he looks somewhat good. Like, I don't know though, because you're not giving him that space to. I get that you don't want him to lose the game. You're not trying to have him win the game or lose the game. You want that to be your defense. I get that. But like you look at a team like the Broncos with Bo Nix, like when they started getting creative with some play calling, like he actually looked a lot better. I get that he wasn't great, but it's like he's a rookie. It's like game 2. Like let's get some more of these things out there instead of just these dink and dunk passes. I don't know, like throw your rookies out there and open up the playbook a little bit.
I will say the thing with Fields, I would say, is that he had a lot of yards taken back for penalties as well. I mean, George Pickens would have had like a 100-yard, 1 touchdown day. So that's kind of where that was also interesting. The offensive line kind of held them back at some points. And I think it was Van Jefferson did like a pick play on George Pickens' touchdown, which wasn't particularly necessary. So it's just those little things too, where Fields would have had a better day. I mean, you see, I think it was either today or yesterday. Ben Roethlisberger is in support of Fields. It seems like Fields has gained the trust of the organization. I mean, he's already starting next week, so he's clearly the playbook seems to potentially be opening up more because organization. I think they really like that he hasn't turned the ball over really. That's the thing I've been impressed with most. He hasn't really. It's been conservative, but he also hasn't really made any stupid plays. Um, I thought this like the Steelers have been like a conservative. Um, I don't know. I think I've been impressed with how they've played, and they really haven't had to open up the playbook against opponents that aren't quite up to their par. So I mean, I don't know. I do think this week will be the big test, like you said. I think this week against probably so far when it comes to one of the hotter teams, and a Jim Harbaugh defense, I think that'll be the real test for Fields. But I will say, moving on to unless you wanted to say anything else about the Steelers, that was on your mind. I was going to
No,
say,
no. I mean, I feel like Pickens should have had that touchdown. That was kind of a BS call. They kind of ran into him, but I mean,
yeah,
he has really impressed me. I will say that. Like for the guy that's like the only like legit receiver on the team to actually be making plays when he couldn't do that last year, I'm impressed with his growth. Happy to have him. Impressed with Najee's growth. Broderick Jones needs to get it together. Oh my gosh, that dude's costing the team. But yeah, that's basically it. I get where Ben's coming from with wanting Justin to start. I want to see what this offense can do with Russ whenever Russ is healthy, though.
yeah, that's fair. And I do agree with Pickens. I also think him and Fields have actually developed a really nice connection. That 50-yard bomb was a beautiful throw. It's probably the best throw, one of the better throws I saw in the week. There was couple throws by Kyler, which we'll get into that a little bit, but Kyler also had some spectacular throws. But I just want to dive into the Lions a little bit because I think that's a slight point of concern. I will say I think people are overreacting a little bit on the loss. Because I think everything that went wrong is entirely fixable. Um, After watching it, just watching the replay, I think where they were struggling. I mean, they only gave up, I think it was 216 yards on defense. Wasn't awful. I'm not impressed with the corners this far, but Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph have kind of helped them out. They've both played spectacular. And Derek Barnes, especially, he's impressed me. Jack Campbell has been iffy for him thus far. He's not great in coverage yet. But I think the offense is really the point of concern, which is bizarre because usually Aaron Glenn's on the hot seat. But 1-7 in the red zone is not acceptable. Like, I don't care who you are, but I also think throwing 55 times in 4 quarters, you're never going to win a game like that, especially with how they're built. I don't know. 55 times was concerning. I think Ben Johnson wasn't creative at all. Jared Goff also just is not making his reads like he was last year. Throwing under pressure, he was not great. Um, so I think those are the two guys I'm concerned with are Ben Johnson and Jared Goff. But I think they're entirely fixable. I think the interior offensive line played mediocre. Um, yeah, those are my thoughts. I could go on about it for a while, but actually, I do think people should be a little less concerned than what they're showing. I don't think calling for Jared Goff already is really necessary because, I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes is quite under his standards, and we're not calling for his backup to come in. Goff's played worse, but I think an organization who just had a year of success with Goff should be a little more patient when you're 1-1 right now, and sitting in a division that isn't particularly playing hot.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Especially when you have an offense like how we've kind of talked about, like that didn't play all preseason. Like you give them some time to get acclimated to the season. I know even like Dan Campbell took a lot of blame for the loss this past week too. It's like this is just stuff that yeah will get fixed. I mean, people can call for Goff to get benched all they want. You're going to lose way more games with Hendon Hooker at quarterback than you are going to with Jared Goff. Like, as someone that like sat in the
Yeah.
stands watching Hendon Hooker against the Steelers, like, dude sucks. Like, I'm sorry. Like, he could develop into a good backup. He's got some athleticism, but he is not going to take this team to the playoffs this season. Like, they are going to end up probably fourth in that division if they go to Hendon Hooker. So they need Jared Goff. It's also like why turn your back on a guy that you literally just like have paraded around your entire city for like the last off season? Like, come on, like you got to learn to trust the process. I know it sucks to say that to a Lions fan because like trusting the process has often looked like just more disappointment. But this is a team that can compete in the NFC for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Dan Campbell that whole field goal debacle probably lost them the game, but you can't say that at the same time because you can't go 1-7 in the red zone. That was kind of where I'm at.
Hmm.
Um, Bad play calling, bad decision making. You got to move on from it. You got a tough matchup ahead against a team that I think we got to briefly talk about as well, the Cardinals, who an injury riddled division I think could very well take advantage of this. I mean, I think people forget that Kyler, well, he's had his shortcomings as the number one overall pick. He's led the Cardinals to the playoffs before, and I'd argue when he's healthy, he's and close to elite quarterback. I mean, I think what he does with his height, I think he moves around the pocket so well, and he knows when to escape, like when he has to. I mean, and Marvin Harrison, we got to talk about how quick people wrote off a perennial like talent coming out of the draft. Like people were talking about his 16-mile-an-hour speed. Um, I think people are forgetting this guy's the best wide receiver talent to come out of the draft since potentially Kelvin Johnson. And we're just going to forget about that. And I think he quickly shut people up. Like I don't understand people jumping on him and Neighbors so quickly. Like it was bizarre to me how quick people wrote off Marvin Harrison.
Oh yeah, I mean Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors are both going to be problems in this league for like a long time to come. I'm intrigued to see how Arizona keeps feeding Harrison. I know he only had like the four catches. Um, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know if it was like there's like injury or if were not going his way after that. Um,
He
I
got
know.
8 targets, so it was a good amount.
Okay. So it's like, yeah, I know Kyler was on, I know Kyler was talking about how it's not his job to like feed someone to make him happy and stuff like that. And I get that. But I do think like for Arizona to be successful, like their best chance once the 49ers and once the Rams get healthy is to feed Marvin Harrison Jr. But yeah, I think that this is a team right now that if they can keep being hot, they could be in a position towards the end of the season where they are competing not only for a playoff spot but for this division. 49ers looked a little rough this last week. I mean, obviously losing to the Vikings and Sam Darnold, like that shouldn't happen. I don't care like how good Sam Darnold's looked, like that just shouldn't happen. Um, the Rams are absolutely decimated. Like I'm gonna have a hard time picking the Rams until they get healthy. So right now I think Seattle and Arizona more than Seattle have a chance to actually make a run at this thing. They just have to make sure to maximize this time that they've got.
Yeah, I mean, I think that division right now is all for the takings with like you said, Seattle really hasn't had an impressive win thus far. So I mean they're 2-0, but I mean there's plenty of potential pretenders that are 2-0, which is the hard part to gauge of this season. Was there any other games or any other people that you saw this week that you'd want to mention?
I mean, we can touch on Tua real quick. I mean, obviously, him going down with another concussion, that's not good.
Just
Um,
went on the IR today as well.
yeah, I don't know, man. I think he should be done. I get it. I get how hard it would be to give something like this up, but I don't know, dude. His concussions, and I get like there's players like someone like a Denzel Ward has had like five concussions, and he's no one's talking about him retiring, but it's like Tua's concussions have just been brutal. Shout out Raiders for being competitive against the Ravens. Um, they're a team that I think could actually surprise a few people as long as they just play cohesive. Um, Jets still not impressed by them. You win a 7 point game to the Titans. Not sold on the Rodgers Jets era yet, unfortunately. I thought that they would be a playoff team, and who knows, maybe it will be the evil empire rising again, making the playoffs.
Yeah, I do think the Jets, I think they started seeing more success in that game. They were behind, but they ran Braylon Allen and Brees Hall together on a couple snaps, and that was actually really effective. So I'm intrigued by that. What they keep doing moving forward. I think they kind of realize they have a piece in Braylon Allen, which is tough because when you have two good running backs, it's like Brees Hall should be getting 20. He has been getting 20 touches a game, but now they're like their second best weapon. Garrett Wilson really hasn't performed fantastic yet. So it's like, how do we get this guy more involved? It's like when the Saints had Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara when Ingram was still contributing. It's like they had to figure out how to get them both involved. I think once they figure that out, I think they'll ramp it up a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exciting for you being a fantasy owner of Braylon Allen.
Yeah, I don't I won't be starting both of them in the same week.
Yeah.
I feel like that's too much to I mean it is nice to know that if Brees Hall goes down, I have an elite handcuff, but
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
what can I say? The
I'm excited
top of
for
the league
Marshawn
right now.
Lloyd.
He just went on IR.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh man, my team is screwed. I can't get healthy.
Yeah.
He'll come
All
back.
right.
He'll come back. Josh Jacobs will go on IR, and then he'll take over. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I'm 3-1 in that league. But all right, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back with picks after this. We got picks to get into this week. It's going to get exciting. As you guys can recall, last year Steve was really good at this, but he's not here this week, so we don't have to worry about that. So we'll get into that first matchup, Thursday night football, Patriots versus Jets at the Jets. Eli, who you like here?
I like the Jets. I think it'll be a close game. I like what I've seen out of the Patriots, but I just don't think they have enough firepower yet. Ramondre Stevenson and then Antonio Gibson last week had a good game. But their wide receivers still aren't quite established. Hunter Henry had a really good rapport with Jacoby Brissett last week. But when it boils down, I just think the Jets will dial in on defense. They've been hit or miss. But I think Breece Hall will have a pretty solid game this week. And I'd like to see Garrett Wilson also get going, but he draws a tough matchup with Christian Gonzalez, who's a stud. But I like the Jets winning like 17-13, somewhere in that range. I didn't write down the scores, but 17-13 would be about what I'd go for.
I'm actually going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go with Patriots. I like their defense. As you said, Christian Gonzalez has been really good. I like the running game, what they got with Stevenson and Gibson. Hunter Henry did good job last week. I'm hoping that on the weeks to come, you start seeing a trend of Jalen Pope getting involved more in the offense. You saw that last week where he got 3 targets, which was the most by Patriot wide receiver. So I think they're just going to keep getting him more involved. Yeah, I like this team. I think this team is sneaky. I think it's tough. And I think they're going to come in and they're gonna upset the Jets here on Thursday Night Football. I didn't write down scores either. I'm going to say that yeah, neither team gets 20 or they top out at 20 here. So I'm going to go Jets, yeah, 17-14, or not. Sorry, Patriots 17-14. And that brings us to Sunday afternoon. We got Giants at the Browns.
Stinky game. I mean, this will be a clunker of a game. I picked the Browns. I think it'll be an interesting game. From a standpoint, I don't foresee myself watching this game, unless I use my Sunday ticket. Otherwise, but I do like the Browns. I think Deshaun Watson will get going, enough. I don't think with him leading it, I don't think the Browns will be that great of a team. But I just think their defense will be the star of the show this week. Daniel Jones struggles against any competent defense. I think Denzel Ward will handle Malik Neighbors. So I'll take the Browns. I think this will be another. No, I don't think one team might hit 20. Like I'd probably once again I'd I'd be hesitant. I think I'd go probably 20 to 17, somewhere in that range. It's hard to gauge because I think the Giants might just kick a lot of field goals.
Yeah, I think the Giants don't score under 2 touchdowns in this game. I'm going to go to the Browns. I don't think it's that difficult of a pick, especially at Cleveland. I just think, yeah, neither one of these teams is overly great, but Cleveland actually has a good defense. So I think that, yeah, Daniel Jones isn't going to do much there. Then we got the Packers traveling to Nashville for Tennessee Titans.
Um, I do think I would pick the Titans in this one actually. I think the Titans have been really close to just breaking out and having a good game. I think Brian Callahan and Will Levis will have a really. I mean, I love his transparency with Will Levis. I think that'll create a good coach, and I think Will Levis respected that. He's tough. He's a tough guy. And the Titans have a decent run game and have a good run defense so far this year, and that's really what the Packers have to rely on, having Malik Willis most likely. So I foresee the Packers struggling in this game against a good defense. once again, I don't think this will be a high scoring game either. I think this will probably be, I'd give Tennessee 24, and I'd give the Packers 13. I think this will be a pretty comfortable one for the Titans.
I'm gonna go with the Packers here, actually. Um, I want to trust Will Levis. I like him as a player. I think he has a lot of potential and he could potentially have a bright future. But until I start seeing more consistency with him, I just have a hard time. And honestly, like Malik Willis did a great job of just doing what he needed to do for them to win last week. And I think that the Packers keep rolling here and they go in and they beat the Titans. Then we got the Bears at the Colts.
This one was pretty easy for me. Once again, I'm gonna have to go with the Colts on this one. I will say it's a little concerning that Forrest Buckner did just go on the IR a couple hours ago, so that's concerning for the Colts already. But I'll pick the Colts just because I don't think it matters what defensive line goes against the Bears right now. I think every single defensive line can get through that offensive line. Um, and I think the Colts, I think they just have a good enough run game. I think Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson will rely on the ground game in this game. I just think Caleb Williams just hasn't been able to get comfortable yet. I don't think he's looked awful, but I also think it's a testament. I don't think he realizes kind of like he can't run around like when he did at USC. It's the NFL. It's a lot less prone to those college quarterbacks who run around the entire backfield. So I'd pick the Colts once again. I think there will be a lot of defensive games this week. Um, I think the Colts so far, I think they will probably. I think I could go Colts 25. This will be the highest scoring game we've seen. Might be a little high, but I think the Bears struggle again, so I'd go Colts.
I'm gonna go with the Bears here. I haven't been super impressed by what I've seen from Indianapolis. I think Caleb Williams can do just enough playmaking to get them the dub here. I think it's gonna be an ugly game. I don't think it's gonna be a very clean game. Uh, Probably be like multiple turnovers on both sides. I could see like the Colts winning this just because I'm not like think I don't think the Bears are that great, but I just honestly, Anthony Richardson's kind of in the same boat with me with Will Levis. Until I see more like consistency, I'm gonna have a hard time picking them to win games. So I'm gonna go to the Bears there. And I agree with you. I think maybe it tops out at like 25. It's gonna be yeah, just another like kind of slugfest. Here gets to be a potentially really fun game. We got Texans traveling to Minnesota to take on the red hot Sam Darnold Vikings. Who you got there, Eli?
Um, this is a tough one until we get to Sunday because I think it'll really vary on Justin Jefferson playing. But at the same time, it doesn't sound like Jordan Addison's playing. And Derek Stingley's looked very good to start the year as well. He's another corner that's been impressive. So I have to go with the Texans. I just don't know if the Vikings have it. That Texans defensive line looked really good against the Bears. Um, I think that combo of Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson is a lethal combination. They got a good secondary. It's the offense will need to do a little more. It's a good two defensive teams, but I'd comfortably go the Texans in this game. I think Sam Darnold's bound to have one MAC game. I also just think the Texans, I think the better team prevails in this game. So I'd go with Texans. I think this will be the highest scoring game. I'd probably go 27 to 24. I think it will be a good game.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I'm going to go Texans as well. I want to go with that proven commodity. Uh, we know that the Texans are built to be a good team this year. Vikings have kind of surprised us. I'm going to go with I just think D'Amico Ryan's can figure out Sam Darnold can make him uncomfortable. Yeah, I have the Texans winning this one. Then we get to another exciting game where it's going to be the Eagles traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints.
Yeah, I was on the fence with this one. I originally wrote one team, I scribbled it out and wrote the other. I had the Eagles, and then I switched to the Saints. I just talked myself out of picking the Eagles. I really like the Saints team. The thing is, I don't think that I do think they're a slight pretender, but until they show they're a pretender, I love to root for them. I'm a big Derek Carr guy. I really like him. I don't think he's really, I thought what happened to him in Vegas was unfair. He had a rough year last year. But the Saints, I mean, they have some proven. They got Marshawn Lattimore. Um, Kool-Aid McKinstry looked decent last week, filling for Lattimore's role. Um, and then Demario Davis and Cam Jordan are just rock solid veterans who are playing super well late in their career. And then Rashid Shaheed as well. That's been a super cool name to see pop off this year. I also think the Eagles defense also, they're kind of like the Cowboys. They have a lot of holes and they got a couple guys who make these spectacular plays. But I mean, they have CJ Gardner Johnson who'll probably give up another touchdown. Um, so I'd go the Saints here. I think this will probably be, I'm gonna go Saints 31 and then Eagles. I'm going to go 27. I think the Saints will pull it out.
Yeah, I'm riding with the Saints, dude. I'm sold on this team, and maybe they're kind of like my like pull the trigger, prematurely team this year. Like I think that they're actually good. Um, I mean they have pieces on both sides of the ball that it makes sense in some ways. Maybe not they're not as good as we've seen, but they're definitely a competitive team. I agree with you with what you said about Derek Carr. Happy for him. I'll admit that I thought he was washed. I didn't think that he would ever do anything in New Orleans. So to see him doing this, I'm super happy for him. Just seems like a really good dude. I think Jalen Hurts comes into this game and he gets an interception. Just I again, I'm not. It sucks because like I know he's my fantasy quarterback and he's still going to get me points because he can run the ball, but I question his decision making at times, and I think the Saints have a pretty solid defense. And I at home, I have them winning this one. Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna go 35-20 on this one. I think that they win pretty handedly here. And then we get what might be a very hard game for me to watch. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Chargers at the Steelers. Who are you going there?
And I hate to do it to you. It's a battle of two and 0 teams. And I want to pick just the Steelers and Lions every week, but I don't think I can do it this week. I just think the Chargers, when it's two and 0 teams, um two teams that are really hot defensively. I think it'll really come down to which offense can execute a couple like an extra drive or two for points. And I just think the Chargers have shown more in both facets of offense for me to be more confident in picking the Chargers. I think it can go either way, which is the beauty of the NFL. Um, I just think the Chargers, they got J.K. Dobbins playing really great. Quentin Johnston finally showed out last week with two touchdowns, and Herbert looks really comfortable in the new offense already, in the Greg Roman offense. So I'm unfortunately going to have to go Chargers. But I think I'll probably go 24 to 20. I think personally, I think it's the best game on the 1 o'clock slate. I think it should be a great game.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good game too. Yeah, I understand with what you're saying about the Chargers. I'm not gonna lie. When I sat down to do this, I was going into this thinking to myself, of course I'm gonna pick the Chargers. Like Steelers aren't gonna win this game. They just haven't shown enough on offense to show that they can. And then I started thinking about it, and I thought about what the Falcons just did to the Eagles and how like they came in and won that game, and it's like okay, well, look at what the Steelers did to the Falcons week one. It's like I think a lot of people have a tendency to do this, and I'm not excluded from this. Is like we undersell how good the Steelers defense actually is because we're just used to it being good. And as a Steelers fan, like I'm definitely someone that will maybe undersell it or just maybe nitpick what they don't do well sometimes. I think their defense can cause problems, and I think it will cause problems for Justin Herbert. I really think that Arthur Smith and company have been just playing this along, knowing that they could go in and kind of game manage against Atlanta and against Denver and get those easy dubs. And I think now you're going to see some things open up. Like you mentioned, like Pickens should have had like 100-yard game with a touchdown if it wasn't for holding penalties and then one penalty that was a little bit questionable. Like so, Pickens can definitely be a problem in this game. Can the Steelers' offensive line uh, defend against Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa? I think that's going to be like the key to this game. But I'm going to pick them. I feel confident them making their home debut that they can somehow pull out a win against Jim Harbaugh. So I have them in this one. But I think it's gonna be a close game, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose this one. Next we have Denver versus the Bucks, and I'm guessing that we're probably in agreement with the outcome of that game.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy pick for me. I don't think we talked enough about the Bucks and how impressive they were have been this far. Um, I another guy I love. I love Baker Mayfield. He's just a guy. It's hard not to root for him. He used to be kind of uh, a hothead, but I just think the way he's kind of humbled in a way, and I think it's a really cool thing to see. I always root for these guys that like him and Gino. Like I think those are such cool stories. Um, and I think the defense last week, they that the zone that Liam Cohen put out, I believe that's the defensive coordinator. Hopefully, not switching that up. Um, but I mean that zone that he put out last week was unbelievable against the Lions. And then I also just think Sean Payton really, I think he's slowly easing Bo Nix. He doesn't. Sean Payton really doesn't have a leash yet when it comes to the Broncos. So I don't think he's rushing this year. After watching it, so I mean, I'd go Buccaneers probably 27-10. I think the Broncos might be competitive for like a quarter.
Yeah, no need to waste oxygen on this one. It's gonna be Bucks easy at home. Then we get into the 4 o'clock games. We have Carolina traveling to Vegas, take on the Raiders coming up off their upset one against the Ravens.
Yeah, I do think the Panthers could potentially shock some people. Um, it would shock me if they won because I'm going to go with the Raiders. I just think the Panthers, their offensive line hasn't played that bad, which is the puzzling part about the Bryce Young saga. We'll see how Andy Dalton does. I mean, he's way past his what you would consider his prime. Not that his prime was all that great. Um, and I think Minshew, if he continues to target Brock Bowers, who's a stud, um, I think the Raiders are probably. I'm going to pick the Raiders pretty comfortably. I would probably pick them. It'd be 30-17. I think the Panthers will look a little bit more confident.
Yeah, give me the Raiders, man. Minshew mania. Been on this bandwagon for a number of years now. I'm glad to see him getting another shot, man. I mean, you mentioned Brock Bowers. They also have Devontae Adams too, and it's like they have Max Crosby on the defensive side. Again, the Raiders have pieces, whereas if Minshew just can like kind of play like a game manager and not turn the ball over, they can be competitive in almost every game that they're in. And Carolina, yeah, they're switching quarterbacks. I don't think that Andy Dalton at this point is in his career is going to move the needle all that much. I think Carolina might be a team that could be a 0-17 watch. So I'm going to go Raiders here easily. Then we travel to the Pacific Northwest to see the Dolphins take on the Seahawks. The farthest flight an NFL team can make.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a waste of a flight for the Dolphins because with Skylar Thompson starting, like you said, not no reason to waste so much oxygen. I think Mike McDaniel could create some noise with creative using Tyreek Hill and Devon and Chain, but I'd go with the Seahawks starting 3-0 comfortably. I'd have them winning. We'll go with 26-17. I think the Dolphins will make it kind of a game.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time picking the Dolphins without Tua, until they show that they can be competitive without him. Uh, I've liked what I've seen from Gino. I think he's gotten better each week. They have weapons. Obviously, JSN went off last week. They still have Metcalf. They still have Lockett. I know that they're without Kenneth Walker, but I don't think that that matters in this game. I'm going to go Seahawks comfortably at home. I'll do 27-14 on this one. Then we get what should be actually hopefully a pretty good game. We got Baltimore traveling to Dallas. Can Dallas defend their home turf this week, or are they going to go 0-2 at home back to back weeks?
I picked the Cowboys. I think the Ravens are going to start 0-3. Um, I just don't know if the Ravens will necessarily have an answer for CeeDee Lamb. Um, then Tolbert and Turpin for the Cowboys have both flashed a bit, along with Brandon Cooks. So I think if one of those guys contributes and Dak can get it to him, along with the return of Jake Ferguson, should help them. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I think this one will be more of a shootout. I'd go 27-24, and the Ravens continue their struggle.
Yeah, man, give me the boys. Give me a pissed off Dak who wants to come in and prove that they are a legit contender. Oh, I think that's just gonna be it's gonna make for a good football game. Yeah, I like the Cowboys in this one. I like them scoring 30 plus and the Ravens hitting about 20-ish points there. I think just Dallas is just gonna come out guns blazing on this game. I mean, they're all in, right? So they gotta. Then we get an NFC West showdown between the 49ers and the Rams in LA. Both teams have been hurt pretty badly by injuries. You got no Debo, no CMC for the 49ers. Los Angeles obviously is down Puka, is down Cooper Cup. It's been a struggle bug for them with the injuries. Who you got in this matchup?
Yeah, the hospital battle. We'll see where this goes, but I went with the Niners just because I feel like they have a bit more. I think Ayuk will finally break out. He's pretty much had training camp his first 2 weeks. Essentially, it's pretty much what it matches out to be. And then I'd watch out Juwan Jennings and Jordan Mason should both contribute, like they have, when they've Niners have dealt with injuries. So I like the Niners here. It's hard to give a score for this game really because I don't. Both offenses are decimated, but neither defense has showed out that well. So I'm gonna go with the Niners, 24-23, close game.
Yeah, give me the Niners in this one. They're probably the least decimated by injuries. They still have some offensive weapons that are scary. So I'm gonna go them. And let's be honest here, like it's really hard for an LA team to have a home game. So I'm gonna go Niners in this one. Then we get a exciting matchup for all of us Michigan natives. We got the Lions traveling to the desert to take on the Red Hot Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions here. I'm confident they can bounce back. Um, the Cardinals defense to me still, they played decent last week. I also think it's a factor of, Matthew Stafford and co really were out of this game right away. I really don't think they opened up the playbook like they did week one. I think the Lions will get it together. I think defensively, I think they can cause some trouble. Um, yeah, I'd go the Lions here. I think this will be a high scoring affair. I'm going to go with the Lions, so 31-30. I think this will be a 1 point win for the Lions.
Yeah, hate to do it to you, man. I'm going Cardinals here. I like what I saw from them last week, and honestly, I need to see more from Detroit's offense. They flashed. Obviously, JMO's been huge for them this year, but they definitely need to be more consistent. And I think that the Cardinals come into here, and I think you're just going to see Marvin Harrison Jr. have an even bigger game than he had last week. Um, so I like them at home. I think if Detroit was at home here, I would pick Detroit, but I like the Cardinals going at home. Speaking at teams that are good at home that will be on the road, Kansas City travels to the A to take on the Falcons. Who are you picking on this one?
I'm going with you like that. I'm going with my biggest upset. I'm going with the Falcons. A big thing for me, I think that last drive was a turning point. I think that ignited that entire team. Bijan looked really good yesterday. I was really impressed with how he got nice chunk plays. So it's good to see Bijan look really good. He's really efficient with all his touches. And then Kirk finally looked a little bit comfortable. I don't think he's fully healthy. I think week by week he's going to get better. And then the Chiefs just haven't. I think they're pretty much a toe in a DPI from being 0-2. Like I think people aren't quite realizing that. So I think the Falcons are going to go to 2-1. I'd really like what Raheem Morris has done thus far.
Wow, and I'm picking the Chiefs. I agree with you. I'm picking the Falcons here, man. You say a toe and a DPI from being 0-2, and that was all at home. Like I think we forget how good of a home team the Chiefs are. Now they have to travel to the Dome in Atlanta. They got to play the Falcons at home. Um, yeah, I think the fan base hopefully is energized from a Kirk Cousins game-winning drive. I'm going with you like that too. I think that yeah, he's turning a corner. I think this team is turning a corner. Um, there's a reason why a lot of people pick them to be good in the offseason. They have the weapons on offense to do so. They have some playmakers on defense too. I think Jesse Bates gets another interception in this game. He's just a beast. I'm glad that he's no longer on the Bengals. So yeah, I like the upset here. Falcons take this one. I think it's going to be a close one, and it might even come down to another Kirk Cousins game-winning drive. But give me this one, 24-22. All right, and then we got another
I,
uh, hopefully good matchup between two teams that have playoff aspirations. We got the Jaguars versus the Bills in Buffalo. Bills coming off a dominant win against Miami, and Jacksonville has struggled to get their offense going all season. Who do we like here on this Monday night showdown?
I like another dominant win from Buffalo. I just think the Jags are one of those teams that are going to disappoint. Um, I don't like what I've seen out of the Jags offense. They just haven't given me enough to believe that they can outgun Josh Allen. James Cook looked really good last week, and Bills defense is always pretty solid. Um, so I think they'll give some Fitz Von Miller's looking a little bit better this year. So that's giving them a little bit of a dimension in the pass rush, which they've lacked at times. So I'd go the Bills pretty comfortably. I'm gonna take the Bills 27 to 20.
Yeah, I was hyping this game up for no reason. Bills win this one easily. I think the next Monday night game is actually going to be a lot more entertaining, and that's between Commanders and the Bengals. I actually think the Commanders might give them a run for their money, but I don't know if I'll pick them. Who are you picking in this one?
I'm going the Commanders. I don't know. I'm really on this game's a weird game. Um, Joe Burrow's really nursing that wrist still. Every time you see him, he's kind of doing this with the wrist. He looked pretty good last week. I'll give it to Joe Burrow, but Jamar Chase doesn't look great. The Commanders' defense is my concern. I think this will be a shootout. Um, it's hard. I'm going to pick the Commanders with hesitancy. I just think Jade Daniels might give the Bengals fits with his legs, and Zach Ertz Zach Ertz and him grew some rapport last week, and Brian Robinson as well has looked really good. Him and Eckler, really good 1-2 punch, way better than I expected. So I'd go the Commanders here. I'm going to go with them 28-27. That's my risky pick of the week.
Yeah, I really want to pick them here just because like I mean, love Cincinnati to lose as a Steelers fan. I'd be naive to not think that Cincinnati just has at some point a game where they just look competitive. Um, and like their former playoff selves. And I think this is kind of the game to do it at home Monday night. Uh, Joey B under the lights is pretty good in prime time and pretty good when it's clutch time. So I'm gonna go with him. I want to see a little bit more from Jaden Daniels before I feel comfortable picking them as like a team that can upset the Bengals or a team like the Bengals. I think they can definitely get there this year, and they could potentially do it this week. But I'm gonna go with Cincinnati here.
Yeah, that's definitely probably the right pick, but I'm feeling a little, a little spicy with that pick.
Hey, I'm just glad that we're locked into the Falcons pick together. That'll be fun.
Yeah, especially I saw Drake London catch that touchdown last night. If Kyle Pitts would have scored that, you would have taken $25 out of my hands. So, you know, it's a nice feeling. I'm on NFL high having a 4-0 fantasy team right now. Best team in Haas's only. Some people like to chat, but I'm the silent killer in the league this year. Um, just want to get that out there. The team's looking nice. As my good friend Hayden Morris would say, I probably just mushed it. But which by the way, he has for the watchers, we do have a guy who wants to hop on, potentially a future guest in Hayden Morris.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, let's get him on.
He,
I
yeah.
know he'd have some hot fantasy football takes, that's for sure. Oh man, dude, yeah, I was watching that game and I was hoping that he was gonna go Pitts on that drive and get Pitts a touchdown, and it was close. I didn't actually think I'd get that close to challenging you for points, and then I did. I was like, whew, maybe, but yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that I have sent Ben to a losing record in the first 2 weeks. He is 0-2 against me. So Ben, if you're watching, I'm sorry to have to do it to you, but it's a revenge tour for the kid and everybody hurts, man.
Yeah, man, I'm sick of being the laughing stock. So it's time to show everybody who's boss. I only have a 20% playoff. Well, technically we only have a 20% playoff percentage. Into the league years would be a little higher because I was managing the team a year or two before you. But it's time to show up. That's what we're gonna do. That's my final statement on it before I'll let the players talk from now on. But
Yeah, everyone that laughed at me for keeping Kamara, man, he's gonna be the top fantasy scorer this year, man. You just watch. You just watch 29-year-old Alvin Kamara. It's it's a revenge tour all around, man. So let us know in the comments. Let us know who you guys are picking. Who do you have on upset alert this week? Who's going to get upset? What teams are sneaky good that you're looking at? What players are sneaky good in fantasy that you're starting? Let us know in the comments. As always, speak now or forever hold your peace. Peace.
peace.